Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards. Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Whether you're looking to launch a podcast or build an online business that allows you to do the work you love, you've come to the right place.
Podcast Answer Man presents The Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Now, here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
That's right, my friends. Welcome to episode number 533 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And last week, I received a lot of wonderful feedback from episode 532, where I shared my personal notes, my Cliff's notes, if you will, on the Tony Robbins program that I'm going through called Personal Power 2. And it is an incredibly insightful piece of bunch of materials for taking your mindset and your ability to focus on accomplishing and all of the things you want to accomplish in your life. I know it may sound like hyperbole, but I'm telling you, it is having a radical, profound impact in my life. And today, I want to share with you just a few of the notes that I've taken from day 2. That's right. An entire week has passed, and I've only made it through one more day of the program, but that's okay. Because, well, one of the notes that I've taken from day 2, and it's something I've heard Tony say over and over again over time, and that is repetition is the mother of skill. So if you want to turn something into a skill, something that just becomes natural to you, that it's just a part of who you are, and it's just how you do things, something that may seem completely unfamiliar to you, something that seems a little odd, a little off, but you know that it needs to be incorporated into your life. If you want it to become a skill, if you want to become skilled at something, then repetition of the information and the actions and all of the framework of the things that are a part of making that a part of your life, repetition is the mother of that skill. That's actually the first note. In fact, I'm not going to go through all of my notes in day 2 of Personal Power 2, but instead what I want to share with you are a few of the daily affirmations that I've put into my daily affirmation file. Now, for those of you guys that don't know this already, maybe you're listening for the very first time, I actually go through every single day, at least Monday through Friday, but I do it on the weekends as well. But it is my goal to go through my list of daily affirmations, and it's also something I've called my truth and identity file. These are just a bunch of statements that I know to be true, but if I'm not consistently focused on them, I may forget about them. And I want to always be reminded, because if I'm reminded of these things on a daily basis, it's going to help me keep from having limited beliefs and thinking about things from, let's just say, a scarcity mindset. So yeah, I go through these things. I call them my daily affirmations, my truth and identity file, which, by the way, just real quickly, I recently switched over to using Keynote on it's on all of my Apple products, but I created the affirmations on slides inside of a 16:9 presentation inside a Keynote, and I just keep it in my iCloud drive, and that way I can pull up my Keynote app on my iPhone at any given point in the day, and I can start that presentation from the iCloud drive or from the actual app itself, because it's just listed in there. And I click on Daily Affirmations, and it pulls up, and I scroll to the first slide and click play and turn my phone sideways, and I see the first affirmation. It's just the only thing that's on the screen is that affirmation, that statement, and then I tap the screen, and it takes me to the next one. Tap the screen, it takes me to the next one. It's a cool way that I've found to go through my daily affirmations. I'd love to create an app, or maybe there's an app out there that would allow me to serve these up in shuffled form. So I wish there was that would be crazy. I don't know why Keynote would do it, but I wish there was a way that you could tell Keynote, please go ahead and hit play, but will you shuffle the slides? That actually would, I'm thinking that would make for a lot of fun in an actual public presentation. But anyway, I digress. But that's what I'm using for my daily affirmations right now as far as going through and reviewing them on a regular basis. But here are some of the new things that I've added to individual slides inside of my Keynote document for daily affirmations. And they all come from day 2 of Personal Power 2 from Tony Robbins. So I already told you repetition is the mother of skill. That is actually a slide in my daily affirmation file. However, here's a new one. Whatever I focus on consistently, I will tend to manifest in my life. Therefore, I will be intentional about what I choose to focus on. So let's go through the first half of this. Whatever I focus on consistently, I will tend to manifest in my life. And whenever I hear a statement proposed as a fact or as a universal principle that is always true, that it's true no matter who you are, where you are, whatever the circumstance, this is truth. And whenever somebody lays one of these down and says this is something that you should believe, the first thing that I do is not just immediately run over to my daily affirmation file inside a Keynote and add it as a new slide and try to recite it on a daily basis until I believe it's true. Nope, that's not how I do things. Instead, what I do is once I've been presented with this idea, this principle, this statement, this fact, if you will, that's being presented to me, I ask myself, well, can I take what was just said and evaluate all of my past experiences in life, and through that lens, does what is being said here, does it actually align with what I've experienced? And if possible, are there some things that I'm going through right now? Are there some obstacles that I'm facing? Are there some decisions I want to make? Are there some goals that I want to accomplish? Is there something in my life right now that it would be pertinent for me to take this principle, apply it to what I'm going and experiencing right now, and see if I can apply it here and see if it's true. Will it work out right now? And so that's what I like to do. And so whenever I hear this, it says, whatever I focus on consistently, I will tend to manifest in my life. And I will say that I know that there's some hesitation when people start thinking, well, whatever you think about, it'll just show up in your life. And some people get a little feeling like this is just like woo-woo stuff. All right, but I've talked about this several times, this concept recently of whatever you're focused on, you tend to manifest in your life. This is something that I know for a fact is true. All right? I'm not expecting you to just hear my voice and me telling you that whatever you focus on consistently, you will tend to manifest in your life. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how I became convinced of this, and then I'm going to ask you, will you evaluate your life, your experiences, and tell me if you've ever had any of these circumstances where you can say, oh, wow, yeah, I guess so. All right, so if that's the case, listen to this. I want to tell you the story, and if you've been following me on my vlog and a bunch of other areas, you've probably heard me talk about my dream car, Abigail, which is in my garage right now. And Abigail is my 1974 Volkswagen Beetle. Now, this has been a quote-unquote dream of mine to own a late 60s, early 70s Volkswagen Beetle in excellent condition as my car for more than 20 years. Okay, now when I say it's been a dream, it has been a dream. It had never been a goal, but it had just been this dream. It's for some reason I never even thought to pursue it seriously. It's just been like, okay, I'm not a car guy, but man, if I could have any car that I want, I would want this. And I remember over the last 10, 15 years, anytime I would be driving down the road and I would see somebody else, parked in a parking spot with a nice looking Volkswagen Classic Beetle. I'd be like, wow, I wish I had one of those. And there would be times I'd pass car lots and I'd see some for sale. And I've seen them in all sorts of condition. And even the ones that are just like, it looks like it's this thing, there's no way on earth that thing could ever run. And if it did, it looks like if you were to hit a bump, it would probably fall apart into 50 pieces. I've even, whenever I see one for sale, I always stop to look at them. But it's just been a dream, right? Then what happened was one day I was doing a Day with Cliff consulting package, a mentoring package with my friend Chris Nelson, who basically, by the way, just signed up for the Next Level Mastermind. He's now in the evening group of the Next Level Mastermind. But the Day with Cliff package is where you can pay $7,500 and you can come here and spend an 8-hour day here in my office in the Next Level studio, and I will mentor you one-on-one, and we'll talk about anything and everything you want during that day together. Well, Chris came in for that and had an incredible time, and at lunch we went out, and I was driving him to lunch in, I believe, my wife's car, and we were talking about cars for whatever reason, this idea of having a dream car, which is my dream car would be a Classic Beetle. And we got very detailed. He says, well, if you could get one, what year would you get? What color would you get? And all this other stuff. And I told him, I guess my ideal perfect dream, maybe 1973 would be cool because maybe that's just because of the year I was born. And I said, my favorite color is green. So I guess if I could choose any color at all, it'd be green. And the next thing I know is about 4 or 5 days later, I get a package in the mail from Chris Nelson. And inside it is a card that says, thank you so much for helping me get closer to achieving my dreams. I'd like to help you get closer to achieving yours. And then inside of that came in a box, and inside the box was another box. And it was this little miniature, I guess you could say, die-cast car. It is a beautiful looking 1973 classic Volkswagen Beetle Bug, and it's just, it's die-cast. The hood opens up, the doors open, and I'm just like, wow, that's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. It's a green little Volkswagen Beetle, and and as soon as I got it, I'm like, you know what? This is not one of those things that somebody sends me that I'm just going to put in a closet somewhere or anything like that. This is something I want to sit out on my desk. Now that is a gift that came that really spoke to me and spoke to something deep inside of me. And so I set it on my desk, and I came in, and on a daily basis, I see this. Every single day I walk into my office, I'm literally confronted with this 1973 Volkswagen Beetle toy car that's on my desk just to the left of my keyboard. And just the fact that it was there on a consistent basis, all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, I wonder how much those things run right now. I know I've talked about it in the past. I looked at them in the past, but I wonder how much those things cost. And when I got to thinking, it's like they run, by the way, in the condition that I want, in the year that I wanted, they run anywhere between $7,500 to about $12,000. You could probably spend as much as $14,000 for one that's been really souped up and modified and done really nice. So between $7,500 and $14,000. And when I got down to thinking about it, it's like, wait a second. So I'm searching these. I'm looking at them on eBay. I'm looking at Facebook Marketplace. And I'm noticing that, wow, this is definitely within my price range, especially when you think about the fact that I just made in one day what it would cost to buy this car. It's like, why have I never done this? And so I decided to get a little bit more serious about my search. I wonder if there's any closer to me. And it probably was about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks between the time this thing showed up sitting on my desk, confronting me every single day. And during those 3 weeks, probably about 4 or 5 days a week, I would do some sort of search online for various opportunities to buy a Volkswagen Bug. But, I'm thinking, am I going to drive all the way to California or Colorado or Pennsylvania or wherever from Kentucky to go pick one of these things up? And the answer to that question is, I'd be willing to do it if I found the right one at the right price. And then one day, I think it was a Friday morning or whatever, and I actually no, it was Thursday. It was a Thursday night, I think. It doesn't even matter. But one night before I went to bed, I saw one on Facebook, and it was within 50 miles of my house. And it was the exact car. I mean, it was a 1974. It was yellow, but it was in excellent condition. And I'm like, man, that's a beautiful looking car. And they said it runs perfect. It, all of these, and it said original miles and a ridiculously low mileage. Just like, this is too good to be true. But then I clicked a little button in the Facebook Marketplace that says I'm interested, and then all of a sudden I'm getting these emails or these Facebook messages from this guy who's selling it from a car dealership. We go back and forth. I ask him a bunch of questions, and then the next morning, I'm on my way to the gym, and by the time I have thought about it overnight and worked out at the gym, that next day, I think that was a Friday, I decided not to do anything in my business, and I said, Stephanie, do you care if I go buy this car? And that day I went and bought it. And so within 3 weeks of receiving this gift as a toy, to be sitting here on my desk confronted with this thing, it's something that I was focusing on consistently. And what was I focusing on? Not just the car, but I was actually I was intentionally focusing on my dream of owning that car. And then all of a sudden, just because I was intentionally confronted with that dream every single day, there were actions that I just naturally took to look it up, and I'm wondering if I could find it. And I wonder if there's anything close. I find one within 50 miles. It fits all of my requirements. It doesn't have to be green. That was just a question. If you could, anything. So, but if you've seen this car, you know that the color yellow that I have is absolutely awesome. But anyway, so I ended up, 3 weeks later, I owned the car. And by the way, I've owned it since, I'm recording this Friday, February 2nd. I purchased it I think it was the final week of December. So in just over 2 months, just over 6 weeks, I would say, I've already put 1,000 miles on this car. I love it. But so there's that. Whatever I focus on consistently, I tend to manifest in my life. Now, where else can I see this happening? Well, there is leaving my my insurance job and focusing on my business. Whenever I was consistently focused on how am I going to generate X number of dollars, I found myself manifesting that in my life. When it came to shutting down podcasting A to Z and saying, okay, how am I going to replace that income? And I came up with ways that would do that. It was a consistent focus. And then all of a sudden I've got all of these different options for me to replace income. I wonder, how can I market all of these? And my mastermind group, my own personal mastermind group says, Cliff, why don't you just focus on one of them? If you had to focus on just one, which one would you focus on? And I said, well, it makes sense for me to do this one first, which is the Next Level Mastermind. That's the one that produces recurring revenue. That way it's not hunting and gathering. And if I can fill this thing up, then all of a sudden all of the financial needs in my business are met with this one thing. Sure, I may have somebody drop off every now and then, but I will have a waiting list. And so it makes sense for this to be the one thing I focus on. And so when I only had, I think, 3 members in the Next Level Mastermind, I made the decision, which, by the way, was within the first week of opening it up back in November. So I had 3 members in the Next Level Mastermind. I went in and I closed out all of the options for the Next Level Workshop. I took Free the Dream sales page off of my to-do list. By the way, Free the Dream is still happening. That's a conference that I'm doing September 7th, 8th, and 9th. That is absolutely happening. The speakers are already lined up and they're going to be there. My friend Ray Edwards is speaking. My friend Dan Miller is speaking. My friend Leslie Samuel is going to be speaking. It's going to be an incredible event. Friday, September 7th, and then Saturday, September 8th, and Sunday, September 9th. 7th, 8th, and 9th in Franklin, Tennessee. You can go to freethedream.live. to put yourself on a waiting list for when the sales page is available. But I put all of that stuff off and I said, okay, the only thing I'm going to focus on daily is filling up my Next Level Mastermind. I have 2 different groups that I'm facilitating, one in the morning and one on the evening each Wednesday. Each group is limited to 12 people. Well, as a result of that, making that decision when I only had 3 people, focusing consistently all of my efforts and all of my thoughts on how can I market this, what kind of things can I do, what kind of content will I create. This is my focus. Until I fill this thing up, until both groups have 12 members, this is my focus. And as a result of that, just before I hit the record button on this podcast episode, I just interviewed and accepted the 16th member into the Next Level Mastermind. Now, there are 10 members in the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind, and there are 6 members in the PM group of the Next Level Mastermind. And so what am I seeing? I am seeing the fact that I am focused consistently on growing the Next Level Mastermind. I am consistently manifesting in my life new members of the Next Level Mastermind. This in every, by the way, whatever you focus on consistently, you tend to manifest in your life. Another thing that I'm focused on consistently is working out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. This is something that has been manifested in my life. One of the things that I do intentionally, and I've said this several times, you may have heard me say this before, it may be embarrassing, but if you want, you can do this. Go to Instagram.com/CliffEOTC. And when you go there, you will see that just pulled it up. I'm following 22 individuals. Now, there are a handful of people in here that are not fitness-related people. My friend Father Roderick, I follow him. My daughter, my son, or my 2 daughters, my son, I follow them. Dan Miller, Leo Laporte, Chris Brogan, Ray Edwards, Amy Landino now, Loria Petrucci, Mark Mason, and a handful of, actually maybe only 2 or 3 other people. Those are the only online marketing friends that I follow on Instagram. Do you want to know what the rest of my 22 followers are? They're all fitness models. And specifically, they're all fitness models who are consistently spending at least an hour a day every day in the gym. And you know, it's just what I see on a consistent basis. It's what I'm focused on is people who are at the gym. And you know what? As a result of focusing consistently in Instagram every day, seeing these people in the gym, not just with the pictures and the videos that they share in their Instagram stream, which is the original version of Instagram, but even in their stories, when they're doing their story updates, most of them are story updates while they're at the gym. Or if they're not at the gym, they're usually story updates about what they're eating that support what their goals are for fitness and health and strength. And so as a result of that being a focus consistently in my life, I'm tending to manifest a healthier, more fit life myself. So absolutely, whatever I focus on consistently, I know I will tend to manifest in my life. Now, what is the opposite of, or not the opposite of the statement, but what are some other things that I could potentially focus on? So if, for example, let's just say, I don't know about you guys. I'm married, and Stephanie and I have been married for over 21 years. And occasionally, Stephanie and I might have a disagreement or a misunderstanding. And right before I have to, come down to get some work done, to work on a project, I have a commitment, a deadline that I need to fulfill. And it may be possible. It doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to, but occasionally there may be some kind of misunderstanding between the two of us, and Stephanie might be a little bit irritated with something I've done or said, or something that I didn't hear and didn't follow through on because I didn't know that expectation was there, and so she may be a little frustrated. Now, what I could do if I want to is I could focus on the fact that she's frustrated with me. And if I focus on the fact that she's frustrated with me, if I focus on the fact that our relationship isn't like completely hunky-dory right now, sunshines and rainbows, that there's this dark cloud looming over us, if I focus on the fact that we've had a disagreement and that we are that I feel like, if I want to say that I feel like I've been unjustly judged for something that I did or didn't do, I could focus on that feeling. I could focus on that negative feeling. And I will tell you that, and I know this from experience, whenever in the past, earlier on in my marriage, when I would focus on how I felt unjustly criticized for falling short of an expectation that I may have known about, but most of the time, like where I didn't even know that was an expectation, but now all of a sudden she's upset because I didn't have, and so I could focus on it, and if I focus on it, I will manifest more of that in my life. If I focus on our disagreements, I know from history, it is absolutely a proven thing in my life that if I focus on the disagreements if I focus on those disagreements with my wife, I will tend to manifest more disagreements with my wife. However, and this is what happens now, occasionally, guess what? I still fall short of perfection as a husband. I know, shocker, right? But occasionally I do something, say something, or I may fail to do something or say something that I should have said. And Stephanie may say, hey, I'm not cool with this, and I'm really bummed about that. And it's like, man, there's nothing I can do right now. I have to go do this. Now, instead of focusing on the fact that, hey, when I left Stephanie, we were in a state of disagreement. Instead of focusing on that, I'm like, man, I can say real quick, hey, I am so sorry. I hate to leave right now in the middle of this. I'd love to work this out, but I have to go do this. I love you, and I'll see you at dinner tonight, and that's it. I've got to go, and so what I can do, and what I do in my life, is I focus on all of the awesomeness in our marriage. I focus on how much we love each other. I focus on how much that we do for one another where things are agreeable. I focus on the love and appreciation and the romantic feelings we feel one another. I focus on the physical attraction that we have to one another. I focus on those things so that when at the end of my work that I had to do, when we come back together, I'm not still in the mindset of, okay, we are in disagreement. There is a break in our relationship. I come in with this mindset of, wow, I love you. How can I serve you for all that you've done for me? Yeah, and it's, trust me, when I focus on the great things in our marriage, even in the midst of feeling like I'm unjustly whatever, I forget about that. I don't focus on that. And I just move forward focused on the things that I want to manifest more in my life. So, what is it that is on this one slide that means so much to me? Whatever I focus on consistently, I will. Whatever I focus on consistently, I will tend to manifest in my life, and I will be intentional about what I choose to focus on. And I always have a choice to focus on what I focus on. All right. The next one. I'm not going to number these. I said I'm not going to number these. All right. The next one I want to share with you is I will immerse myself into the study of whatever it is that I want. I believe that practically anything that I want in my life, anything that I want or desire in my life, I believe that I can achieve it. Now, I know you might say, well, Cliff, if they had to amputate your two legs because of a medical condition, and you wanted to run one of those I don't know what you call those, super triathlon or super marathons where you do 3. Anyway, are you going to be able to do that and run in first place? No. I mean, can I just say, oh my gosh, I know that I want to do this. I have no legs, but I'm going to grow legs back. No, I don't. That's silly. But anything that I believe is possible, that is reasonable, I really do believe that I can achieve it. And whatever it is that I want, like for example, I want to have a stellar Free the Dream conference. That is something I want to create, an environment that is going to change people's lives, that is going to help people change their beliefs about who they are and what they're able to achieve, that's going to help people break free from limiting beliefs. I want to help people break free from self-sabotage. I want to help people break through procrastination. I want to help people learn how to master their body. I want to help radically change people's lives on September 7th, 8th, and 9th with an incredible experience that is called the Free the Dream Conference. Now, that is something that I am going to be focused on consistently between now and September. Now, I am a little bit more focused at this moment in time on filling out the remaining spots. There are 2 spots left in the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind, and there are 6 spots left. Is that right? 6. Anyway, there are a few spots left in the evening group at the Next Level Mastermind, but I'm getting ready to go into very intense focus on the Free the Dream conference. And I had been doing it in the past until I knew that I needed to focus more time on the marketing of the Next Level Mastermind. But anyway, I will be immersing myself into the study of what it is that I want to do. So, for example, I'm getting ready to go next week. The next week, the first full week in February, next week, Stephanie and I are going to Franklin, Tennessee for the SCORE conference. It's my 3rd time going to this conference. Now, am I going there so that I can take my public speaking to the next level? Yes, I am. So, number 1, I am going there to immerse myself in the study of public speaking from the stage. Although I've already went through this 4-day intensive conference already twice before, yes, I'm going again to learn the skills of public speaking over again to help. Repetition is the mother of skill. Remember that? So I'm going to hear it all again. I'm going to be trained by a different coach in different areas and different aspects of my speaking. I'm going to get some great pointers and tips. But you know what else I'm going to get at the SCORE conference in Franklin, Tennessee next week? I'm also going to get to see once again how they open up their conference. What music are they using? How are they using lighting? How are they doing their breaks and their how are they doing the networking part? How are they communicating to the attendees, both in online stuff and at the event and just, emails and stuff like that? How are they, what environments are they creating and how are they creating those environments? All those little details. I'm going to be immersing myself in the study of not just learning what they're going to teach me at this conference, but how they're actually doing the conference. And then just a few weeks later, I'm going to be in San Diego for Social Media Marketing World. And yes, I will be immersing myself into the study of what it is that they're doing to make that conference a success as well. I'll be looking for tips and pointers and all kinds of things that I want to do and things that I want to avoid in my own conference. I will immerse. So this is the slide. This is the affirmation. And I read this every day now. I will immerse myself into the study of whatever it is that I want. Okay, the next thing that I have, and it's a little bit more written out in my affirmation files and stuff, but I'm just going to share with you real quickly that taking massive action is like growing a muscle. All right, now I'm a strength training kind of guy. I go to the gym, and how you do strength training, to build up muscle. Let's just say you go into the gym and you want to do some dumbbell curls, some bicep curls, and so you pick up a dumbbell, and let's just say you pick up a 20-pound weight. And you pick it up, and it's like, man, this is kind of tough. When I started in November, or actually when I started strength training, that was more in January. Actually, I know for a fact it was January of 2015. So doing some curls of a 20-pound dumbbell wasn't easy for me. And what happened was I got about 4 or 5 of them, and my trainer, my personal trainer, forced me. They said, hey, I know it's difficult for you to take this massive action, but I want you to go all the way to 10. And matter of fact, I had to, he allowed me, or I think after 6 or 7 of them, he allowed me to use my other arm to lift the barbell or the dumbbell up. And he says, now let it down slowly without any help from the other hand. And so what was very difficult, or somewhat difficult at first, this light, easier weight of 20 pounds, that was kind of difficult for me, but he forced me to take action. He forced me to do it. And then we increased the weight. So the next time we worked out biceps, he made me do 25 pounds. And the thing is all of a sudden it's like, wow, I could do 4 or 5 or 6 of these things of 25 pounds. But then I got to that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can barely do this thing. And now you know what I can do? And it's been over 3 years now. So 3 years later, I can pick up a 50-pound dumbbell and curl that thing. And I can go over and pick a 20-pound dumbbell, and I could curl that thing. I could probably curl it for 50. I don't even know. I don't know what my limit is, but I know I could. For me to curl a 20-pound dumbbell today, it's almost silly, unless we're doing drop sets, but that's a whole other thing. And those of you who do strength training, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, but the idea here, the whole idea of taking massive action in our life. So you have these things you know you need to do. Sometimes you just need to take some action. And so last week when I said we need to decide and take action, sometimes you just say, okay, what are a couple easy things that I can do right now? What are some actions that I can do right now? They may not seem significant, but you know what? I'm going to do those. This is my 20-pound weight, and I'm going to lift that 20-pound weight, even though sometimes it's difficult to even lift this little tiny thing, to make myself to get the willpower to do it. But the thing is I'm going to take this little action right now. It seems like massive action to me, but I'm going to take it. And then you take that, and the next thing you know is there's another action that you need to take to get it to the next step, to take it to the next level. And all of a sudden, by the time you do this enough, eventually trying to take massive action becomes effortless because you have built the muscle. All right? So another affirmation that I have in my file, taking massive action is like growing a muscle. All right. The next one I have is I love this. You know what? No, I'm moving this. I'm moving it down to the last. I'm going to come to my favorite one at the end. Okay, so the next one I'm going to share with you is the controlling force of our life is what we link pain and what we link pleasure to. All right? I'm going to say that again. The controlling force of our life is what we link pain and what we link pleasure to. And then on the next slide, I have this. I have the ability to control the motivating forces of pain and pleasure through neuroassociations. Now, what does this mean? There's a third one that goes along with pain and pleasure, but this one's mostly with pain. The third slide that I have related to pain and pleasure, it says most people don't succeed until they have enough pain. You know, so let me start with you don't do anything until you have enough pain. Have you ever got to the place where you know you need to do something, you really should do this thing, I'm going to do this, I want to try this, but finally you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Finally not doing this thing that you know you've needed to do becomes so painful. Not taking action becomes so painful for you that taking action is less painful. You know, so it will help alleviate the pain. And so most people don't succeed until they have enough pain. The problem is that sometimes we link so much we link so much pleasure to not taking action, or whatever it is that we want to accomplish. So, for example, last week I let out this crazy, insane thing. I told you guys in this podcast last week, I said, I'm never eating sugar again in my life. And all of a sudden I started thinking, what did I do? Why did I put that podcast out? Do you know that? I mean, and immediately the first thing I thought of is like, oh my gosh, one of my favorite things to do sometimes is to go out and celebrate my relationship with my wife and take her out to a nice steak dinner at J. Alexander's, and they have this amazing carrot cake, and it's warmed up. Ray Edwards, you're listening. You know what I'm talking about. There's this amazing carrot cake, and they warm it up, and the icing just kind of just oozes all over, and it's like, oh. And, and then I think about Thanksgiving and family time and my favorite pumpkin pie, and I think about, the fact that whenever it's somebody's birthday, what do? We celebrate with sweet treats like cake and ice cream, right? What all of those things are, they're neuro associations. Now, here's the thing. I'm not suggesting what other people do. I just know that in my life, I would love to live the rest of my life without any sugar. That's my desire. There's without cake, without carrot cake, the cupcakes, the Kit Kats, all of that stuff. I'd love, my dream, my desire is to go the rest of my life without putting any of that added sugary snacks into my body ever again, never allowing them to cross my lips. Now, the thing is the next time I go to J. Alexander's with my wife, which I'm definitely going to do, they have an amazing steak house there, and they have other wonderful things. And at the end of that meal, they'll come and say, do you want dessert? And my answer for me will be no. And Stephanie's made a decision to go along as well, at least for the month of February anyway. And that was her decision, not mine. I didn't prompt her. She's like, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so anyway, the thing is if anybody else wants to have their dessert and I'm faced with the opportunity during a time of celebration, I'm like, usually it's like, oh, you know what? This is a celebration. It's a one-time thing. And this whole linking to the pleasure of eating this sugar is the pleasure of celebrating and having joy, and this it just tastes good and it feels good and it gives you this all these other things. It's linking so much pleasure and joy to eating the sugar-filled carrot cake, or the sugar-filled cake, birthday cake and ice cream, or the whatever. And the reality is that I am in control of what I link pleasure and pain to. So for me, it actually has become very easy for me to say, no, I will not eat the carrot cake. I do not even desire the carrot cake, because I have taken time to focus consistently on associating pain to eating that carrot cake. When I think about that carrot cake, I no longer associate that as a pleasurable experience. In fact, what do I know about carrot cake? Well, number one, if I choose to eat that carrot cake, what pain will that cause me? Number one, I've told people that, hey, I am going to never eat sugar again. And so all of a sudden, that immediately says, well, okay, I have failed to live up to the commitment that I've made. That is a painful thing for me, and I don't want that pain. Number two, if I eat that carrot cake, I link it immediately in my mind to the pain of knowing that all of a sudden that sugar is going to be in my body and insulin is going to be kicked on in my body. And insulin is a storage hormone that will take the calories that are coursing through my body from the steak and everything else, and the insulin will prevent my body burning any calories from fat. And in fact, it will also go in and take the calories that are there and store them as visceral body fat. All right. So I've linked that. It's like, wow. And so I have some pretty aggressive fitness and health goals. And one of those goals relates to where I want my body to be physically as far as weight and body fat percentage. And so when I think about the potential of eating that carrot cake, then immediately another association that I have is the fact that, hey, I've been so awesome at what I've been doing with my workouts, staying within my net calorie budget, and avoiding sugary snacks like this. And as a result, I am consistently, day after day, seeing a drop on the scale. If I eat this cake, I'm going to see it go up a little, or I'm going to see it level off. I don't want that. I also associate pain to eating that carrot cake in saying that, hey, I happen to know that my insulin doesn't shut off as soon as it should when my body's sugar levels get to a normal level. Instead, because I had been diagnosed as hypoglycemic, I know that my insulin levels continue to go. And as a result of that, after the sugar rush is gone, I go into low blood sugar, which automatically makes me crave more sugar. And I desperately want sugar to keep myself from passing out. And so as a result of that, that is not how I want to end this evening, this date with my wife, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, enough said. So I want to maintain my energy levels, so I know that if I eat this cake, I will experience the pain of decreased energy levels. I will feel lethargic and I will feel like passing out. So it's like all of a sudden I could think about the pleasure of the taste of that carrot cake, the pleasure of the sugar molecules and how they feel on my taste buds. I remember all of that. I'm not lying to myself. I know that those are there, but I've decided to I don't ignore the fact that there is pleasure to eating the cake. And trust me, there still is pleasure in eating the carrot cake. But I choose not to do that anymore. Why? Because I am controlling the force of, what is it here? I have the ability to control the motivating force of pain and pleasure through my neuroassociations. I am choosing, and neuroassociation is in my mind. I choose to associate the idea of sticking my fork into the carrot cake and put it in my mouth and swallowing that sugar into my body and having it in my, I'm linking it to way more pain than any pleasure that thing can give me. All right. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. And you can do this with anything and everything. This can help you in helping you achieve goals and taking action on all sorts of things in your life, or avoiding all sorts of things in your life. Associating enough pain and enough pleasure to whatever it is what you want to do. By the way, what pleasures will I get by, so it's not just avoiding pain for me, but I also like to think about, well, if I actually, I have the option. I'm sitting here at J. Alexander's with my wife, or even with a friend of mine, and they've just asked me, do I want any dessert? And let's just say that other people decide to get dessert at the table, and they're eating their desserts, and I'm not. Does that mean, it's like, wow, thank goodness I can avoid all that pain. Yeah, that's awesome. It really is. However, there's also pleasures that I'll get. Yes, I could have the pleasure. If I ate the carrot cake, I would have the pleasure of all of those sugar molecules on my taste buds. Trust me, it tastes great. I know it. But let me tell you what pleasures I will get. Not only what pains will I've already talked a lot about the pains that I would avoid, but what pleasure would I get from avoiding that cake, by not eating that cake in the midst of everybody else eating their carrot cake? All right? What pleasure would I get by avoiding it? Number one, I will have a greater sense of self-confidence in myself. I will have a greater sense of being a good example to others that I've made a commitment and I stuck to it. I will achieve a continued drop on the scale, getting me closer to my ultimate goal of the physical body that I am intentionally, consistently focusing on, that I will in fact manifest into my life. I will have a ripped body one day. I will prove it to you. One day I will be able to get on a stage and take off my shirt and show you my six-pack of abs. All right? So maybe I shouldn't say that. It will not happen at the Free the Dream conference, I promise. So don't let that keep you from coming. But anyway, what other pleasures will I get? I will get the pleasure of having increased energy levels. That is, it's just, I will have that. You get the idea. It's so I have the ability to control these motivating forces of pain and pleasure, and the reason why sometimes, let's just say you've made a goal this year. You want to start working out X number of days a week, and you want to go to the gym. And for some of you, the reason why you haven't gone to the gym, the reason why it hasn't happened for you, the reason why is because you're linking way too much pain to it. It's like, oh, but I have to do this, and I'd have to drive there, and I'd have to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And so you're focused a lot on the pain of actually going and doing the thing. And also, in the moment, when it comes time, it's like, okay, I said that I was going to go to the gym when I got home from work. All right, and so let's say you get home from work, and now it's time to go up and put your workout clothes on and stuff like that. So you're focused on the pain, but then you also think about the pleasure that's in front of you. Well, wow, if instead of going to the gym and working out, I could sit back on the couch and just sit back and relax and watch the latest thing on Netflix, or watch, I could sit back and, do something enjoyable, maybe read the next chapter of this book that I'm reading. So, man, that would be so much more enjoyable for me right now. So you're linking pleasure to not doing it. And so if you link enough pleasure to whatever it is that you would gain from not doing it, and you have enough pain linked up with the actual action of doing it, then there's very little chance you're ever going to get to the gym. And that's probably why you haven't gone to the gym. But guess what? You have the ability to control the motivating forces of pain and pleasure. You could, if you want to, spend an hour on a piece of paper and say, what benefits, what pain will I experience in my life? Let's just say 2 or 3 or 4 years from now. What pain will I have in my life? What will I not have achieved in my life? What would I have missed out on if I choose not to go to the gym? Focus on that pain of not going, and then what pleasure will I get if I actually do take action right now? And write those things down. And then when it's time for you come home from work and it's time to go to the gym, then all of a sudden you're focused on the pleasure you will get if you do it, and you're focused on the pain that you will experience down the road, or even immediately if you don't do it. And the motivating forces of pain and pleasure will get your butt in the gym. I promise you, it works. You have the ability to control the motivating forces of pain and pleasure through your life by linking that pain and pleasure into the right things and focusing on them when confronted with the opportunity to take action or to avoid an action. All right, there you go. Then the final thing that I have that I added to, actually there is more that I've added to my affirmation file, but the final one that I'm going to share with you here today is this. You don't have to have a complicated idea to make a difference in your life. What you need are ideas that you apply. I'm going to read that again. You do not have to have a complicated idea to make a difference in your life. What you need are ideas that you apply. Now, this reminds me of the book The Big Leap. When I read The Big Leap, I read The Big Leap I think 2 or 3 times. I can't remember. I know I read it at least twice, and I think I read it like 2.5 times. And I'm reminded of a friend of mine who said, Cliff, I read the book. It only took me about 4 hours, and I just don't understand what the big deal is. Kind of just zipped right through it. Me, I my first time reading the book, I literally stopped it and thought about in depth all of the different things that I'm hearing, processing in my mind. Is this true? I'll never forget the time when I first heard Gay Hendricks say, I always have plenty of money for all the things I truly want in my life. Really? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I guess I do. Wow. Oh my gosh. I always have. How freaking that is awesome. Wow. What? This is amazing. And it's true. I always have plenty of money for all the things I truly want in my life. It's never not been true. And what a revelation just that one thing was. So I still have a ton of my friends who have these goals. I'm going to read a book a week, every week in 2018. That's great. I love that. Wonderful. I'm taking Tony Robbins' Personal Power 2, right? Okay, this is a 30-day program. So at the end of 30 days, I should be done with this thing, right? I've been doing Personal Power 2 for over a month now. And by the way, I've listened to day 3 times already. And this weekend or early part of next week, I will start taking notes on day 3. So I've taken over a month to get through the first 3 days of a 30-day program. So for me, this is going to be a multi-month program of going through. You know what? And what I love about, and this is from day 2 notes, you don't have to have a complicated idea to make a difference in life. What you need is an idea that you will apply. Now, I got to ask you a question. Are you addicted to learning new things? Are you addicted to studying? Are you addicted to the next big principle in your life? Well, let me ask you this. Is there something you heard in this episode today that you thought, doesn't everybody know that? I wonder, why doesn't Cliff teach me something I don't already know? I'm sure there's some kind of complicated, complex framework or solution that's going to radically change my life. You know what? I honestly believe there have been at least 4 things that I've said in this episode that if you were to apply them, you would be a completely different person in 5 to 10 years from now. And if you were to listen to this episode, repetition is the mother of skill. If you were to listen to this episode 2 or 3 more times, I bet you would see a difference in your life within the next 30 days. Just saying. Anyway, my friends, that's what I wanted to share with you in this week's episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. Real quickly, I want to let you know there is still a few spots. There's only 2 spots left available in the Next Level Mastermind, the AM group that meets Wednesday mornings. And there are a few spots left. I think we have 6 members. So it's 10 and 6. So there are 6 more spots left in the evening group of the Next Level Mastermind. And if you have been thinking about joining the Next Level Mastermind, you want to get in there and do it, especially if you want in the morning one. nextlevelmastermind.info is where you go. It's not .com, but nextlevelmastermind.info. And by the way, if you want more insights into what's going on in my life, what I'm doing, my daily routines and stuff like that, I am back to a little bit of, I hesitate to say daily vlogging, but my goal is to have at least 1 personal vlog every week, and I'd like to do even more than that. But my commitment is that I want to do a minimum of 1 vlog episode a week, and if you get 1 daily, you might get 1 daily, and that's over at youtube.com/Cliff Ravenscraft. Those are the 2 things I wanted to tell you about here at the end of the show. But guys, thank you so much for listening. I look forward to working with some of you over the next year in the Next Level Mastermind. Head over to nextlevelmastermind.info. And for everyone else, I look forward to seeing you in the comments of the website over at podcastanswerman.com/533, in the comments of my vlogs on YouTube, in the comments of my posts on Facebook over at facebook.com/Cliff Ravenscraft. I just look forward to connecting with you in some way, shape, or form, letting me know that this content is making a difference in your life. I'd love to hear about it. It motivates me, encourages me, because that is exactly what I feel like I have been called to do in this life, is to help you become more of who you were created to be. Until next time, I encourage you to take every area of your life to the next level. And you can do that, by the way, by controlling the motivating forces of pain and pleasure by linking them to the right things.